Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. I, 29 female, have a half-sister, 22 female, but we've never really gotten along. Recently, I lost my grandfather. He was a fun guy and helped me through the time when my father, his son, abandoned my mother and me. He had a massive art collection valued at a lot of money and built my love for art. I spent many years discussing art with him and attending art exhibits together. It was an exciting thing to bond over, especially since no one else in the family seemed to understand it. When he died, my grandfather left the entire art collection to me. He split the rest of his estate among the other family members, but there was nothing for my half-sister. My grandfather had never recognized her as a legitimate grandchild and didn't interact with her. While leaving her out of the will was not exactly a shock, my dad, stepmom, and half-sister were displeased with all of it. So they asked me to split my inheritance with her. Apparently, it was the right thing to do. They urged me to sell the art so that there would be enough money to split between the two of us. I refused. I already had plans for the art, which is also why my grandfather had left it to me. And my half-sister had always hated the art. She called it trash and a waste of time, so there wasn't much reason why she would profit from it. I let them know that I wasn't going to be splitting anything and would not be convinced otherwise. 2 weeks later, my half-sister called me and asked if she could take pictures of the different art pieces. I figured that she was starting to accept the situation and gave her the go-ahead. She was able to access them at my grandfather's old house since I had never taken them out. Whenever I had asked my aunt to take the artwork out of the house, because I didn't trust my half-sister or stepmom, she had always had some legal lingo ready, cited insurance claims and covers and how she would keep the artwork safe, till I had secured a fine location for it. I believed her and held back from taking out my inheritance. A few days ago, I went by my grandfather's old house. It now belongs to my aunt, who is also the executor of the will. I had finally gotten a van to transport the art pieces and booked some space in a museum. I figured it was a good way to share my love for art while keeping it safe. Anyway, I went and by coincidence found my sister and aunt helping to load one of my art pieces into a stranger's car. I asked them what the heck was going on. My sister and aunt looked shocked and guilty when they saw me. Turns out, my sister had gone ahead and listed my art pieces as her own online. She had masterminded this entire operation with my aunt. They had planned to sell a few pieces without me ever finding out. For some reason, my aunt forgot that all the pieces were listed in the will, and I would definitely follow up on them. I told my half-sister that she was a conniving snake and I was going to pursue legal action against both of them. She argued that she planned on selling just a few pieces, since they would provide a great safety cushion for her. She insisted that she was owed at least that, since she was also a grandchild. I told her that if she wanted to enjoy part of her inheritance, she could have gotten our aunt to sell the house and share the profit from it. This just seemed like a calculated attack against me. Then she broke down and said she was deep in debt, so she needed the money more than I do. At this point, I was already mad seeing how she hadn't even apologized for going behind my back. I told her that her being in debt was not my problem, and it certainly didn't give her the right to steal from me. I talked to the stranger who had mistakenly bought the art piece. They were very understanding, but also very pissed. The buyer turned on my aunt and sister and demanded a full reimbursement with interest, or they would publish this event on every form of media they could get to. Unfortunately, my sister had already spent the money and had nothing to pay back with. She asked me to accept the sale, and I said no. She should have thought everything through before making such a stupid choice. I quickly took out all the art pieces in the house before my family could think of more ways to ruin my inheritance. But since then, my dad has been calling, asking me to reconsider. He keeps saying she's my younger sister and needs my help. I told him she wasn't really my sibling and I wasn't going to stand by and be disrespected. The rest of the family has sent me messages reminding me that the art won't help me in my tough times unless it is converted to money. Am I the a-hole? My grandfather left it to me and I should be able to do what I want with it. Update. My art pieces are safe and sound. several museums and art houses have reached out to me to exhibit the collection. It's nice to have them appreciated for their full value. Meanwhile, I'm working on getting them a permanent home. I haven't heard from my sister and stepmom in a few weeks, which doesn't really bother me. I told my dad to stop calling and harassing me, or else I would report my half-sister for her fraudulent activities. That shut him up. I don't know if she got help with her debts or if it was just a story she told me to gain sympathy. Either way, I don't care. I'm just glad that I can enjoy the art pieces and share my love for art with others. I'm glad you stood your ground, OP. The art pieces were given to you by your grandfather, and you're not the only one who got something from his will. Your dad did too. I just don't get why they would want just you to share your part of the will with your stepsister. It sucks that she wasn't in the will, but if your family cares that much about her getting something, then they should all give her part of what they got from the will. I also can't believe she tried to sell the art pieces behind your back. That's stealing, and if you weren't so nice, you would have had her arrested. OP, your love for art is admirable, and I hope you do whatever it is you want with the art pieces. That's what your grandfather would have wanted. Story 2. My 31 female's ex-husband Larry, 33 male, married his mistress Julia, 42 female, shortly after our divorce 2 years ago. She has a 13-year-old son, Alan. Our son, Cody, 12 male, doesn't really like Alan nor Julia. I have tried to encourage him to foster a relationship with her and Cody, but he's been pretty standoffish towards them, and I'm not gonna force anything between anyone. Cody has been asking if we can change the custody arrangement to him living with me full-time, and I've started the paperwork since he gave his reasoning. They're annoying, won't respect his boundaries, force him to spend time with Alan and Julia when he doesn't want to, etc., etc. Julia has called me since finding out about the upcoming changes and has asked me to consider her and her son. She says she can't have any more kids and that Cody is her chance to be a mother to another little boy and offer him love. She asked if I really needed less people to love my son, but I told her he simply doesn't care for her the way she does. She relented and said that if I won't consider her feelings, then to consider Alan's, since he can't have another sibling naturally, and that I'm practically stealing his brother from him. She suggested I take Alan every other week, so the boys have time together. I told her that I really don't care about Alan's feelings. He's not my kid, nor do I feel any obligation towards him. She called me heartless and said she hoped I experienced what she has, and can't have another kid. I'm already pregnant with my current boyfriend, and I know she knows this, so I know she said it out of hate and spite. My ex doesn't have the gall to oppose me after his affair, but has voiced his anger at me taking Cody full-time. I haven't heard much back, but her social media is full of posts about how infertile mothers have it the worst, and stepmothers are looked down upon. Am I really the asshole here? Not the a-hole, OP. I respect you for looking out for your kid's best interest. This woman wasn't concerned about you, nor showed any love for your son when she slept with your husband. She had no concern for the possible emotional damage a divorce might have on your child. So I don't understand why she thinks you should be concerned about her desire to want to be a mother again. I also don't understand why she felt comfortable saying she was going to be a mother to your child, as if you don't exist. Your son doesn't care for her or her son. He is at an age where you can't force a bond. I'm glad your ex isn't fighting the change to the custody agreement. If she really wants another child, then maybe she and your ex should think about adoption or becoming foster parents. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Why in the world would you care about her or her son? Sounds like she thinks she's the main character in the story. And your son's feelings don't matter. Maybe if she respected his boundaries, she wouldn't have had this problem. Not the a-hole at all. She seems bitter and toxic, even more so considering she was your husband's mistress. And now the homewrecker wants you to take her feelings into account? I would take screenshots of everything to show the court. Alan isn't your son, nor part of your family. You have no obligation to babysit him. That's her prerogative if she chose not to have more kids sooner, or even to adopt. There are plenty of kids looking for a home if she wants Alan to have a sibling. Also, be careful what you say to both of them, as they may guilt trip your son and pressure him to recant. When are these step-parents going to learn that the surest way to alienate your partner's kid is to force yourself on them? I get along famously with my partner's daughter for that very reason. I never tried to take a parental role, never inserted myself into their issues, and encouraged him to do things just the two of them. I learned this from my own experience of my mother marrying a man I already didn't like, forcing me to take his name and call him Dad, and worst of all, giving him carte blanche to punish me. This was in the deep south back when beatings with a belt were considered normal. I ended up despising him and vice versa. But the mistress angle makes it especially despicable. Good luck in the custody matter. I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like a 13-year-old boy should be old enough to have a say in the matter, not the a-hole, nor is your son. Story 3. I would like to preface this by saying that my dad is not a deadbeat at all, and I'm blessed to have a stepmom who truly loves me, or good at faking it. When I, 21 female, was younger, my parents got divorced and both got remarried to my step-parents. My stepmom had a daughter my age, and then they went on to have a few more kids. I had 50-50 custody, but my parents very much let me do what I wanted because they wanted it to be easier for me, and so I went between houses as I pleased. Like dinner at one and then slept at the other, and then spent a few days at one and then went to the other. When I was 12, my dad moved to my stepmom's home state and I only saw him over summers and every other holiday, and when I reached high school, I became a competitive tennis player, so I trained all through summer and couldn't see him unless he visited me. We did text all the time, but it's just not the same as being there in person. It always hurt me that he went to my stepsisters and half-siblings events, but never mine. And it was really hard not having my dad close by. I kinda ended up rejecting my stepdad, who I previously got along really well with. I feel horrible now. But eventually, I realized that he was a good man who loved me and was always there even when my dad wasn't. My mom and stepdad became my primary parents. Anyways, my dad asked me why I don't act the same way with him and my stepmom as I do with my mom and stepdad, and I decided to tell him the truth. I told him and my stepmom that even though they still kept in constant communication with me, I will always be upset with them for moving. Before anyone says anything, I should not have had to go with them and leave my mom who didn't choose to leave and my family and friends, and that it hurt to never have my dad around, and that I felt unwanted and abandoned. I felt like I was a lost place kid for him because he chose to be around everyone else more than me. I told him it took a lot of therapy to deal with these feelings. Him and my stepmom got really upset and said they tried their best, and it was unfair to excuse them of loving me less. So am I the a-hole? Because I'm pretty sure that my dad didn't want to move, but my stepmom really did, because she had cancer and wanted to be closer to family. OP, you are entitled to your feelings, and feelings are not always fair. Your dad and stepmom moved to have more support for your stepmom's cancer. That is a perfectly reasonable and correct thing to do, but it hurts your feelings. That is okay too. It is also reasonable that by leaving, they would never be as close to you as the family you live with. While that reality might hurt their feelings and feel that it is unfair, that is not your fault. What's next now is for you all to figure out how to move forward and do your best to repair the bond you once had.